The white moonlight of my husband returned to the country with a child in her arms, but he eagerly became a sycophant. As a woman with a child, she has it tough. I, with a 6-month pregnant belly, pointed at myself and said, "Do you think it's easy for me?" Max turned a deaf ear. On the 3rd day after he left, I went to the hospital alone and had an induced abortion. I placed the divorce agreement in our bridal chamber. When we met again, Max looked at my flat belly in disbelief. Suddenly, thunder rumbled outside. Just as I finished washing the dishes, I heard my husband on the sofa say, "I'll be there soon." "Where are you going?" I asked, puzzled. Max put on his coat and said casually, "Luna's son has a fever. She can't handle it alone now. I'll go and help her." He didn't hide it at all. There was no concealment of worry in his eyes. I refused. "You can call an ambulance for her. You are not allowed to go." "Anyone can go, but Max can't." Since I got pregnant, this was the first time Max had lost his temper with me for Luna. "Nina, this is a matter of life and death. Can't you be less unreasonable?" Max shook off my hand. I stood in front of him. "Max, suddenly, thunder rumbled outside. My heart trembled. My eyes reddened. Honey, can you stay at home with me?" Max didn't listen. As he walked towards the entrance, he said, "Nina, don't make a fuss. I'll just go and help and be back soon." Max left without looking back. It's not easy for Luna to return to the country with her son. So, is it easy for me to stay at home with a 6-month pregnant belly? In an instant, I covered my mouth and quickly walked into the toilet and retched. After a while, looking at myself in the mirror, I fell into deep thought. Since I was 4 months pregnant, I began to have obvious pregnancy reactions. For the sake of the child in my belly, I gave up my upcoming promotion. Max said, "Keep this child. Let my parents help take care of it then." Under his persistent persuasion, I agreed. Max didn't come back all night. Looking through the floor-to-ceiling windows at the wet road outside, I dialed Max's number. "Are you busy?" Max's voice sounded very tired. "Yeah. The situation of Luna's son is not good. It's estimated that he will have to stay in the hospital for a few more days. I'll see what the doctor says first." "Hasn't it been clear after a whole night?" Before I could speak, Max hung up the phone. I couldn't help but dig my nails into my skin until blood oozed out. For a moment, I didn't know which pain it was. Max has never accompanied me to a prenatal checkup. Even during the 4-dimensional ultrasound, I was alone. And what did Max say? He just kissed my forehead and said, "Be good. Let your mom accompany you. I can't delay today's work." The mom he referred to as my mom. As soon as Max's white moonlight appeared, he couldn't wait to do everything himself. I laughed at myself. Love and non-love are so obvious. I'm so stupid. I still don't understand. I sat quietly on the sofa until my mom knocked on my door. I came to my senses. I wiped away my tears and said in a choked voice, "Mom, why are you here? You child. Why didn't you answer the phone when I called?" "I found an old hen to nourish your body. I heard that pregnant women should eat this kind of old hen. The soup boiled from it is very nourishing." Her words were full of concern. Carrying big and small bags of vegetables, she entered. "These vegetables are also fresh." I couldn't help but cover my face and cry. "Nina, what's wrong with you?" Mom comforted me and wiped away my tears with her calloused hand. After I cried enough, my mom looked at me with knitted brows. "Did you have a fight with Max?" I hesitated for a moment. Deep down, I still had the last illusion about Max and shook my head. "I'm just in a bad mood." My mom stared at me skeptically. "Oh, Mom," I cooed. My mom pointed at my forehead. "How old are you and still coquettish? Wait for me to make you a chicken soup." I nodded and smiled at Mom. "Okay." I sent a WeChat message to Max. "Max, can you come back and accompany me?" "Max, are you planning to be his stepfather?" The messages I sent were like stones sinking into the sea. Max didn't come home for 2 consecutive days. He is probably at Luna's side. Max and I were classmates in college. Luna was from a neighboring school. At the beginning, when Luna went abroad, Max went to see her off but was scolded as sick by Luna. Until the moment the plane took off, Luna didn't give Max a title. After graduating from college, Max and I entered rival companies. Through the matchmaking of friends, we got together. I thought Max was just slow to warm up. Now it seems that he just doesn't love me. I found out the hospital where Luna was through a friend. In my impression, Luna was someone who left a certain profession and returned to a normal life. In the early years, I heard that Luna was a mistress and got pregnant. The child was an illegitimate one. Cardiology department. I looked around but didn't see Max. There was a sickly little boy lying on the hospital bed. Nina, what are you making a fuss about? I'm not making a fuss. You haven't been home for 2 days. My stomach has already bulged, but Nina, why are you here? Max's smiling face instantly froze. Regardless of the eyes of others, he pulled me and walked out. Max, slow down, slower. The child. Max's eyes were gloomy and his expression was rather helpless. Nina, what are you making a fuss about? I'm not making a fuss. You haven't been home for 2 days. My stomach has already bulged, but he ignored it. With red eyes, I questioned, is your wife her or me? Max sneered. I'd rather Luna be my wife. Are you satisfied? He rubbed his glabella. Go back if you've made enough fuss. Max was about to turn around. I called out to him. Max, are we going to end? I think he must regret that I'm pregnant, right? But he didn't even have the intention to quarrel with me. I stared at him and said, if you go back, I'll abort the child. Fine, go ahead. Max glanced at me expressionlessly and walked towards the inpatient department. He never looked back at me, not even once. I don't know how long it took. I resignedly returned home. My mother-in-law called. Nina, are you not feeling well? Why did Max ask me to kill the old hen at home? My vision instantly became blurred. Mom, you'd better ask Max himself about this. I hung up the phone and waited uneasily for Max to give me an explanation. How I hoped that Max could lie to me that the old hen wasn't for Luna. But Max didn't. Not even a single call. His true love seemed to be only for Luna. Even if Luna's child wasn't his. Baby, Mom is sorry. I lowered my eyes, placed my hand on my slightly bulging stomach, and tears fell plop onto the back of my hand. The next day, my mother-in-law transferred 1,000 yuan to me on WeChat. Nina, this isn't much money. Take it and buy some delicious food to nourish yourself. I will persuade Max to come home. I received the red envelope and replied. Okay. After getting the divorce agreement from the law firm, I went to the hospital where Luna was. Standing at the door of the ward, I looked at the scene inside and my body trembled. Max held Luna's hand and embraced her in his arms. The little boy in hospital clothes took pictures of them with his mobile phone. They were as affectionate as a family of 3, while I was like an outsider. Max and Luna took the mobile phone and instantly looked back. Why are you here? His face was not good. The face that was originally stained with a smile instantly collapsed. He pushed me and closed the door of the ward. I smiled. You really look like a family of 3. Max frowned, his eyes swept over my stomach, and his eyes looking at me were filled with impatience. What's the matter with you looking for me? Divorce. I said lightly. Max's face instantly froze and he said contemptuously. Threatened me with induced labor 2 days ago. Now you directly say divorce? He only thought I was being temperamental. Max, do you think it's appropriate for you to take care of her like this? People are in trouble. What's wrong with helping? His tone was firm. So firm that it reminded me of when he stood downstairs at my house and confessed to me. Max, will definitely not let Nina down. I sniffed and stopped discussing this issue with him. I directly threw the divorce agreement in my hand to him. Are you really going to divorce me? Max had no emotion at all. I nodded. Yes. He signed neatly and handed it to me. Okay, you'd better really want to divorce me. Max turned around and left me with the sound of closing the door. I forced a bitter smile and squatted down to pick up the hospitalization bill on the ground. If Max had cared a little bit about me, he would have known that I was going to have an abortion today. I have informed my mother about my hospitalization for induced labor. After learning about their affairs, my mother applauded. It's good to divorce. Although we were in the same hospital, until I was discharged, Max and I didn't see each other once. After a month of recuperation, my body has almost recovered and I am also preparing to re-enter the workplace. I looked at myself in the mirror, pulled up the collar of my coat, and picked up the divorce agreement beside me. Mom, I'll go and handle the property transfer procedures. My mother, wearing an apron, came out of the kitchen. Then wait for me to change clothes. I shook my head. Mom, there's no need. I'll come back for dinner later. That's fine. Call me or your dad if there's anything. Remember? I raised the corner of my mouth. I know. In this month, Max hardly contacted me. Instead, his good brother Quentin sent me WeChat messages from time to time. Sister-in-law, your and brother Mo's baby is almost 7 months old, right? I placed the divorce agreement in the most conspicuous entrance. I didn't intend to pay attention to Quentin. Unexpectedly, he continued to send WeChat messages. I'm on a business trip abroad these 2 weeks. I saw a lot of toys. How about I bring them to you? Quentin sent a picture. It was an infant supplies store. No need. Max and I have divorced and the child has been aborted. Quentin, is it because of Luna and her son? I didn't reply anymore. For this wedding house, I originally planned to burn it down. But in the end, I gave up. I contacted the moving company and cleaned up all my things. I transferred 2 million yuan from Max's card to my own account at the bank. When I came out of the bank, I unexpectedly met my former mother-in-law. Nina, where have you been all this time? Her eyes lit up when she looked at me. Her gaze swept over my flat lower abdomen. Did the baby come prematurely? I pulled back my hand held by her. Auntie. Before I could speak, her eyes were filled with disbelief. What did you call me? Auntie, Max and I have divorced. When did you get divorced? I took a step back. A month ago. Then my grandson. I said, I had an abortion. Her face stiffened. I still have things to do, so I'll go back first, Auntie. As soon as I reached the entrance of the community, the ringtone of my mobile phone rang. I've left the keys to the wedding house at that home. You can go and take a look if you have time. I spoke first. Max sneered. Nina, this time you still want to use my mom to pressure me? Didn't you receive the text message that I transferred 2 million? I received it. I walked slowly forward along the main entrance of the community. Nina, do you think I will spoil you? For a moment, I was in a daze. Where did you spoil me? From falling in love to getting married and then to pregnancy, even for the basic major expenses, it was all my own money. I went for prenatal checkups all by myself. He was busy with work. Either he was on a business trip or had important meetings that he couldn't push away. After a long while, Max sighed. Nina, we are people who already have a child. Don't be petty anymore. I tightly clutched my mobile phone. Max, I'll repeat it to you again. I had the child aborted a long time ago. If you don't believe it, you can go to the hospital to check. Or I can also give you the hospital's transaction records. I lost patience and hung up the phone without listening to his words anymore. Not far away, my mom was wearing a coat and waiting for me downstairs. She was holding a mobile phone but hadn't made a single call to me. My nose soured and tears couldn't stop flowing. My voice was hoarse. Mom hugged me and murmured, "Good daughter, Mom knows you've had a hard time." I was mute and just kept crying. Luna soon learned the news of my divorce from Max. She brought her son with a heart disease and rang the doorbell of my house. When Mom told me, I had just woken up from bed and was rubbing my neck. Where is she? She's still squatting downstairs. Maybe you shouldn't go to work today? I shook my head. No, there is a relatively important order at the company today. The leader gave the task and only allowed success and no failure. Mom took out breakfast from the kitchen, a pot of porridge, eggs, and freshly fried dough sticks. Then your boss is really exploitative. You eat slowly. I'll ask the security guard at the door to drive her away. If it doesn't work, I'll ask you to send her to the police station. I tapped on my mobile phone and then chuckled. It's okay. I've already asked someone to come. It must be resolved anyway. That's true. Mom filled a bowl of white porridge and placed it in front of me. Be careful, it's hot. When I went downstairs, Luna was holding her child and staring straight at the elevator door, fearing that I would run away. Nina. Luna blocked my way and bowed with her son towards me. Nina, thank you for being willing to give Max to me. Thank you, Auntie Ning, for giving Max's dad back to me. In the next second after she bowed, I avoided them and said indifferently, I'm afraid it will shorten my lifespan. I glanced at the little boy beside Luna. Take your son and leave quickly. I wanted to leave but was grabbed by Luna. What else do you want? I was fed up. Luna's eyes were rimmed with red. I didn't mean to delay you. I just wanted to thank you. Thank me for what? Thank me for personally aborting my own 6-month-old child? Or thank me for giving Max back to you? Then I wish you all to die a horrible death? Her face turned pale. A deep voice came from not far away. Nina. Max glared at me with his gloomy eyes. Do you want to drive this mother and son to death? He protected Luna behind him. I looked at him contemptuously, with a mocking smile on the corner of my mouth. Finish speaking and leave quickly. What's your attitude? Max's face darkened even more. Leave quickly if you want to leave. Don't delay my going to work. Max was stunned and blocked my way. Why are you going to work when you are pregnant? His gaze lingered on my stomach for a few seconds and then he spoke slowly. Don't wrap the child with a corset. It's not good for him. Are you stupid? I sneered. Shouldn't you be the happiest that the child is gone? What are you pretending? The child has indeed been aborted. I was about to turn and leave when I suddenly stopped and looked back at them. By the way, it was also the grandson that your mom has been longing for. He grabbed my hand. Why? Why? Obviously he knows the reason better than anyone else. Now he is still putting on an ignorant posture here, which is disgusting. In reality, because of his expression, I really vomited. When my emotions got excited, I fainted. When I woke up, I found myself lying in a hospital. Only my mom and dad were by my side. Nina, you are scaring your old mom to death. I should have not let you go to work. I bit my lip and said with difficulty. Mom, don't worry about me. It's okay. My mobile phone. As for your company, we have already called you. Fortunately, the boss you are cooperating with is Xiaogu. Otherwise, you will cry later. My dad said with a solemn expression. What's going on between you and Max? I took a sip of water and said indifferently. It's nothing. He just thinks I won't abort the child. Who is the Xiaogu you mentioned? It's me. At the door, a clear and cool voice sounded. Gavin. Gavin nodded and held a bouquet of lilies in his hand, carrying a fruit basket. Long time no see. I've come to see you. My mom wiped away her tears and got up to make room for Gavin. You two talk. Your dad and I will take a walk outside. After they left, there were only Gavin and me left in the ward. You're a big boss now? I asked curiously. Gavin is the grandson of my neighbor. After high school, he transferred to a school in the neighboring city. Later, we had less contact. I can't believe that the child who used to follow me around all day has already got married. I snorted twice. I got divorced a month ago. There was a smile on his face. Well, not bad. No to run. He picked up an apple beside him and peeled it casually. Don't worry. My company will require you to take over. I'm not worried about work. Do you know Luna? As soon as the words left my mouth, I regretted it. How could Gavin possibly know Luna? Moreover, they are not in the same city. I know. Gavin said casually. Me, huh? Gavin paused while peeling the apple. Luna's son is named Nianzhou. I was a bit confused. Which Nianzhou? The Zhou of a surname, not the Zhou of Max. Gavin cut the apple into pieces and put them in a plate beside him and handed it to me. Your ex-husband probably thinks Nian Zhou is his son. Me, impossible. Gavin shrugged. Otherwise, why would he go crazy? I just took a bite of the apple. It was crisp and sweet. How could that be? A female voice calling my name outside the door interrupted my conversation with Gavin. 3 seconds later, the door was pushed open. What came into view was Max's mom. Before I could react, she knelt on the ground with a plop, while kowtowing to me and murmuring, "Please save my son." "Auntie," Gavin called her. "Nina is still sick. Isn't it inappropriate for you to force her like this?" At that time, Max's mom only then raised her eyes and looked at Gavin. "Who are you? What does it have to do with you that I'm talking to my daughter-in-law?" "Auntie, I've been divorced from Max for a long time." I frowned and looked at the aggressive woman in front of me. It was hard to understand that this was the kind mother-in-law a month ago. "My son has gone crazy." In the next second, the woman sitting on the ground burst into loud sobs. "Why am I so miserable? I lost my grandson and now my son has gone crazy." She wiped away her tears and sat up from the ground. She opened her mouth. "Nina, please remarry Max, okay? The doctor said that he was greatly stimulated. Maybe if you remarry, his illness will get better." I didn't hesitate at all. What are you agreeing to? Your son has treated my daughter so badly. How dare you ask for this?" My mom didn't know when she appeared and shouted at the woman who had just stood up. "You're so glib. You're reluctant to kill an old hen. For an outsider, you can't wait to give all the good things to others. People who don't know would think that Luna is your daughter-in-law. Now that your son has gone crazy, you want to ask my daughter for help and remarry. You should look in the mirror and see if you deserve it." Facing my mom's furious outburst, even the woman who was full of righteousness was defeated due to guilt. Since I got pregnant, my mom has basically taken care of me. Except for the 1,000 yuan Max's mom gave me last time, she didn't give me any more. "What are you looking at? Xiaogu, see the guest out." I gave my dad a look. He immediately understood and handed a glass of water to Mom. "Wife, calm down. Later, we'll go home and make up for our daughter." "I'm fine. It's just low blood sugar. I'll put some candy in my pocket next time as a precaution." My mom glared at me. "You're so old and still don't know how to take good care of yourself. You refuse to eat more in the morning. Now you know you were wrong, right?" At this time, how dare I say anything more? I nodded frantically. Seeing that the topic was diverted, my dad and I looked at each other and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Gavin drove us back. I don't know what's wrong with Gavin. He let my mom furiously scold Max and strictly ordered, "If you dare to remarry Max, I'll kick you out of the house and make you live on the streets." I glared at Gavin. "Definitely not." His gaze sometimes fell on me, but he wasn't annoyed. After Gavin sent us back, he was about to go home. To express my gratitude, my parents invited Gavin to stay for dinner. "Stay. Anyway, you haven't had a meal at home for a long time." I smiled at him. "Xiaogu, stay. Anyway, your home is just opposite and not far away." "Yes. I specially went to the vegetable market today and bought pig's trotters to make pig's trotter rice for you." My mom echoed and reached for an apron. Gavin moved his lips. "Okay." Seeing him stay, I raised my hand and smelled my clothes. There was a smell of disinfectant, which wasn't pleasant. "I'll go back to my room first." I raised my eyes and motioned. "You just watch TV here. I'll come out soon." He didn't refuse. I changed into home clothes. After coming out of the room, I found that Gavin had also changed into a set of clothes. "Nina, I washed some fruits. You take them to Xiaogu." Just as I was about to walk towards the kitchen, Gavin got up. "I'll do it. You sit and watch TV." In a short while, my mom's voice criticizing me came from the kitchen. I asked Nina to come and get it. "Look at this child. She just knows how to be lazy all day." Gavin's voice was clear. "It's okay, Auntie. I'm just craving it." You've been partial to Nina since you were little." What my mom said was right. Gavin has taken care of me as a younger sister since he was young. On the dining table, everyone had orange juice in their cups. Xiaogu, eat more. My mom raised her cup, and we followed suit. There was a crisp clinking sound among the cups. My dad grinned. Wish our Nina a new life. Wish me freedom. I drank up the orange juice in my cup in one gulp. My mom, with a sharp tongue but a soft heart, picked up vegetables for me. Wasn't it the abyss you stepped into by yourself? Max and I got married on my initiative. At first, my parents didn't agree. They thought that Max didn't have the qualities to be a husband. Ability. At that time, I thought that it was because they had Gavin as a comparison that they thought Max was not good. In my eyes, Max is the best. Reality is often cruel. A pair of slender hands picked up a pig's trotter and put it in my bowl. Auntie, she already knows she's wrong. I will protect her in the future. Protect me? Like when we were kids. I didn't speak. My dad, is Xiaogu planning to develop here in the long term? Gavin's hand that was picking up dishes paused, and then he pretended to be calm and said, well, my grandma has already passed away. And I was originally planning to develop here anyway. My mom slapped the table. Good, good, good. From now on, we will stay here. After dinner, Gavin asked me to accompany him downstairs to walk off the meal. I didn't refuse. In the evening, there are occasionally the rustling sounds of insects. Gavin said, such a big event as getting married, and you didn't even invite me? I embarrassedly scratched my head. Well, I just forgot. At that time, I was already busy enough preparing for the wedding. Most of the friends I invited were people I had been in contact with recently, and Gavin and I still don't have each other as WeChat friends until now. Suddenly, there was no sound beside me. I turned my head and saw Gavin's clear jawline and slightly upturned corner of the mouth. Is he smiling? A bit bitter? When we went back, we added each other's contact information. Messages kept popping up on my phone. Quentin also sent me a WeChat message. Sister, you might as well pity brother Mo. Quentin, he seems to be really crazy. Max's calls kept popping up continuously. I was a little impatient and pulled him into the blacklist. I clicked on Quentin's WeChat chat interface and replied, I have nothing to do with him anymore. Please don't contact me because of him anymore. Quentin, Sister Ning, do you have to be so ruthless? When I was pregnant, he was with another woman. Was it me who was ruthless? He's crazy only because Luna's son isn't his. Looking at Quentin was annoying, so I simply deleted him too. Delete what should be deleted and clean up what should be cleaned up. Looking at the clean and tidy interface, even my mood improved. I opened Gavin's Moments and found that except for a moment's post saying goodbye many years ago, there was nothing else. Gavin let me witness the disparity in the world. Obviously, he is only 2 years older than me, but the gap is like a huge chasm. Fortunately, I overlooked the entire city from his office. The originally tall Ferris wheel seemed ordinary when looking at it from Gavin's office. Gavin stood at the door and made a sound. Do you like this place? Like it. Are you going to give it to me? Before he could speak, I said, I don't eat handouts. Gavin chuckled. Then come and work here? I shook my head repeatedly. I think our small company is also very good. It's already very good to be able to cooperate with Gavin's company. Even Max's company didn't catch Gavin's eye. Gavin's and my phones were both placed on the table in front of us. Gavin's phone lit up with a string of unfamiliar numbers first. He hung up casually and pulled it into the blacklist. I clicked my tongue and joked, which fangirl is it? As soon as the words fell, the so-called fangirl number in my mouth appeared on my phone. Looking at the unfamiliar incoming call number, I was stunned for a few seconds and glanced at Gavin sideways. He leaned lazily on the sofa and raised his hand slightly. You can answer it. Just pure curiosity. Who would know both me and Gavin? As soon as the phone was answered, Luna's voice immediately came out from the other end of the phone. Nina, are you in Gavin's office? Can you take me to see him? I glared back at Gavin. I won't. I hung up the phone and teased Gavin. I didn't expect you to have so many admirers. He's not looking for me. He's looking for Ning. I was choked. Who is Ning? As if Gavin could read my mind, he said, Ning is my former college roommate. Why doesn't he show up? Gavin sighed softly. Back then, Ning was deceived by Luna. He thought Luna really loved her, so he took Luna abroad and cut off contact with his family. I know about this. When I was in school, I heard that Luna went abroad with a rich second generation. I pursed my lips. What happened later? Gavin frowned. Since Ning cut off contact with his family, that means his source of income was also cut off. And how could Luna be willing to be with a poor boy? So? I asked curiously. Gavin, Ning still found out about Luna's promiscuity. He was so angry that he had a heart attack and passed away. He paused for a moment. When I arrived, he had already stopped breathing. So the child in Luna's belly is Ning's, and it's a hereditary heart disease? Gavin, yes, named Nianzhou. Ning's family doesn't recognize this child. Luna has always been looking for someone to take over. So she set her target on Max, who had a one-night stand with her. I was shocked. What do you mean? Didn't Max tell you that they were together before? I shook my head. What I heard was that Max's pursuit of Luna was fruitless. And Max himself told me that he had nothing to do with Luna. Gavin approached and tapped my head lightly. That's why I said you were really stupid. I sat up straight. I didn't expect him to be such a person. He handed over a tissue. If you want to cry, cry out loud. I won't laugh at you. I took the tissue and put it in my pocket. No, I'm hungry. Then give me the honor. I'll treat you to a meal? I nodded. Okay. Everyone in Gavin's company knows my identity and shows no abnormal behavior about it. There are people whispering behind me. Come to think of it, Nina and our boss are quite a match. They do have a certain CP feeling. The corner of my mouth twitched. Don't they know that their voices are not low? Seeing Gavin's expressionless face, I simply didn't bother to speak. After all, if the big boss has no objection, how dare I have any objection? Luna somehow learned of our schedule and directly found the private dining room where we were having a meal. This time, Luna seems to have learned her lesson and didn't bring her son along. She looks extremely haggard. Gavin, can we talk about the child? At that moment, Luna's voice was so coquettish that it could drip water. The cup in Gavin's hand was forcefully placed on the table with a bang. I was silent for a moment and moved my chair further away from Gavin. The child is not mine. How can you say that? After Luna finished speaking, her eyes reddened and tears fell directly. He is also your son. Save him. Just because Ning and Gavin are good brothers, so the son is also Gavin's? Then my mother's surname is Chen. Why don't I have a huge fortune? I thought that out of consideration for Ning's face, Gavin would help. Unexpectedly, he directly refused. As a mother, you should know better than anyone else whether your son has had an attack. I remember that Ning also had heart disease and it was familial. So Luna's son is probably also suffering from hereditary heart disease. My son is of course suffering from hereditary heart disease. He inherited it from his father. Luna said in a low voice. Listening to her unconfident voice, I seemed to understand. In the next second, Gavin's voice was icy. Luna, how dare you? It's not me who made Ning die. If he dies, I won't have any money to spend. How could I possibly want him to die? She blurted out fearlessly, besides, I have continued the Zhou family's bloodline. Shouldn't they be grateful to me? I couldn't help but go forward and slap Luna. How despicable are you? If it weren't for you, how could Ning die? Ning was literally angered to death by you. From another perspective, you are the chief culprit who killed Ning. You personally destroyed your son's father and made him grow up forever in a world without fatherly love. Luna pushed me away. I lost my balance and fell straight backward. Gavin protected me. His breath filled my ears. Be careful. I responded with an. Luna cursed loudly. Nina, do you think you are any better? You personally aborted your own child. People like you don't deserve to be mothers. With a slap, the sound resounded throughout the private room. The side of her face that she was covering instantly swelled up. Gavin, how dare you hit me? Gavin didn't even glance at her and coldly shouted, I never hit women unless I can't help it. If you don't leave now, do you want me to break your jaw? Luna was so frightened that she fled in panic. Max's mother came to see me again. This time it's not for a remarriage. She is begging me to see her son. Seeing the gray hairs at her temples and tears streaming down her cheeks, I was stunned for a few seconds and said coldly, Auntie, I will never remarry Max in my life. My fate with him ended long ago when he chose Luna without hesitation. She put her hands together and wept. Okay, Auntie just asks you to see Max once. With an indescribable emotion, I responded with a muffled Stepping into the hospital again, this time it's the psychiatry department. I stood at the door of Max's ward. Auntie opened the door before me. Max, look who's here to see you. He was curled up on the hospital bed. Even after hearing his mother's voice, he didn't move. You go out. I don't want to see you. I'm waiting for Nina to give birth to the baby. My Max, when will you wake up? She went forward and pulled at the quilt covering Max. Max, be good. I'll give you candy today, okay? When the baby is born, will you give it to your baby? I watched Auntie gently coaxing him. And the hand holding the quilt clearly showed signs of loosening. Max's voice was hoarse, then you mustn't lie to me. Auntie reached out and wiped away her tears. Mom won't lie to you. Like performing a magic trick, she took out a candy and handed it to Max, pointing at me standing at the door. Look who's here to see you. Max, long time no see. He looked at me with a stunned expression for a long time. Looking at my flat stomach, he was a little puzzled. Are you Nina? Hello, I'm Nina. At this moment, it was as if we had returned to our first meeting, sitting and introducing ourselves to each other. Max was surprised. Wife? I shook my head, no. Although we were only 50 centimeters apart, it seemed as if there was a galaxy between us. Max pursed his lips and picked up the phone on the table. You must be my wife. I'll show you the baby of me and my wife. He unlocked the phone's password and opened the photo album. What came into view was a photo of my pregnant belly. Look, this is the baby of me and my wife, right? I didn't remember wrongly. Max said and wanted to hold my hand. I took a step back to avoid him. He missed. I won't be softened by a photo he secretly took. I took a deep breath and looked at Max and said, it was you who first didn't want me and the baby. I didn't want him to be born without a father. If his birth is destined to be unfortunate, then I would rather he had never come at all. Now that you are awake, don't pretend to be crazy anymore. I turned and left. When standing at the door, I looked back at the person on the hospital bed and said, Max, I want you to live with guilt for the rest of your life. Without looking back again. After leaving the hospital and releasing the accumulated emotions, I felt an involuntary lightness in my whole body. Not far away, the sound of a car horn rang out. A black Grand G came into view. The car window slowly lowered and Gavin's face was clearly visible. Was clearly visible. Was clearly visible. Was clearly visible. Was clearly visible.